I was right and you were wrong.
I'm going to need some context. I'm not sure what you're talking about.
You know exactly what I am talking about.
I mean, I know what he's talking about, but I wasn't wrong. Just you, Sam. You were the only one that was wrong.
Y'all got to clue me in or something.
Oh, you both said that you did, that the stranger was Sauron, and you were wrong. And I will.
If you recall, our last episode,
we'll talk. Save it for the show. But I am going to continue to rub it in for the rest of this episode. This is Tatooine Sons.
It's true. All of it.
What is the name of the porg on the Millennium Falcon?
Force is strong in my family.
What do you think his name is? It's a big moment.
I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
Maybe Turbis?
Do or do not. There is no try.
Turbis? Pablo, if you're listening to this live stream, that porg's name is now Turbis. It's a good Star Wars name.
We're not done yet.
These guys recorded an awesome podcast called Tatooine Sons. Everybody was lit.
So everything has gotten messed up this week because Sam gets to go to a football game.
Yeah.
So
good job, Sam.
Y'all were the ones who pushed for me to do
you
it.
get box seats at a football game.
Yeah, going to South Alabama and watching them beat Troy. They're winning.
That's our rival. Yeah, we got a really good.
They may make it into the top 25 for the first time in the history of the team.
We actually got votes.
I know it
this year, which was like crazy because
but
we're
me
not
and
a
you,
big school.
BB Nate, two of us. We're going to go to the Batman IMAX premiere.
I wish.
Black Adam. Well,
There
maybe
you
that.
go.
You never know. Batman could show up.
That would be crazy.
No, if Grace Randolph would have already spoiled it. Anyway, welcome to Tatooine Sons, a pop culture podcast, the only fan podcast to name a canon Star Wars creature and to be endorsed by the writer-director of The Last Jedi, Rian Johnson. We believe that pop culture is the mythology of our generation, that there is a story, it is written on our souls, and that these myths speak to that story, and that is why we talk about Star Wars and Marvel and DC and the Rings of Power.
Go.
And all these other amazing epic franchises that you love so much. I am David. I am the dad.
Hi, Dad.
Hello, gentlemen. I am honored to be joined every week by my two amazing sons, BB Nate. What is happening this week, BB Nate?
It's finally more DC stuff. It's coming out again. We have so much this week. I don't think you guys understand. I also found out the new DC Super Sons animated movie is coming out this week. It's in a couple days.
It's a good DC week.
I legit only know two things coming out for DC this week. There's a lot.
We can talk about it.
Comics.
We'll talk about it.
Nice.
Coming up. Samuel the Hutt, are you doing okay?
It's over already?
I know.
It felt like
I felt like it just started.
And it's over.
I know, and now I got to wait like 2 years.
I know. That's it. Yeah. Sorry.
Dad?
Yeah. I did not see the ending to episode 6 of Andor coming.
Yeah.
So we'll
seriously.
We'll talk about that. But thank you so much for listening to this show. We do appreciate it. For you getting a chance to hear our insanity for about an hour every single week.
That's a pretty good description.
It is, yeah. We certainly appreciate that. Thank you for listening to the show. Please follow the show on the podcast app that you're listening to it on right now. It might as well make sense, right? Or you can do like Alan at the meeting today at Alan Bell.
Okay.
He was talking about the only iPod that he listens to.
Oh, nice.
He didn't.
Close
and
enough.
somebody was, and Josh was like, you just called it an iPod and you meant podcast. So it was. And here's one thing we know: Alan won't hear this to retaliate because he doesn't listen to podcasts or whatever this is. So anyway, so thank you for listening to the show. We appreciate it. So I'm excited. We got a lot to talk about.
We do.
Yeah.
We got an Avalanche game to get to tonight. Not get to, but to watch. We got a Broncos game to watch tonight.
Yeah.
So let's stop talking about what we're going to talk about and talk about what we're talking about.
Yeesh.
All right, BB Nate, go.
Black Adam is almost here to change the hierarchy of the DC universe. That wasn't trying to be.
You weren't, because it sounded like you were trying to.
I almost went, but
I could almost smell it.
Yeah. and most people, a lot of people, don't actually know who Black Adam is.
This is very
so
true.
let's cover all of that real quick.
Have you ever danced with the devil in the pale moonlight?
Yeah, I can fly.
I'm here to fight for truth and justice in the American way.
The people in this room, which one is A, wearing a spangly outfit, and B, not of use?
There's only one God, man. And I'm pretty sure he doesn't dress like that.
That man has no limits.
So, yeah, we have the DC Batman Superman Battle of the Super Sons animated movie coming out. The first 3D animated movie for DC.
What's that about?
The first Super Sons. Did you say free?
3D.
3D.
Yeah, it's like it has resistance.
How do you watch it?
Same.
HBO
no,
Max?
like 3D animated. Like it's not a 2D
right.
animation.
It's on
style.
HBO Max, or it's going to be download or something?
It's rent. Right now it's purchase, but
Okay,
it's
so we got
rent
that.
like next.
What's that
couple
about?
Days. Batman and Superman are
They're bringing a fat
taken
battle.
over by Starro, the dude from Suicide Squad. And so Damian Wayne and John Kent team up, which they do in the comics a lot as kids, and they try to set free their dad.
Oh, that sounds interesting. Okay, so we've got that. What
we
else?
have that. We have a bunch of comics coming out too.
Some big comics?
Some big comics.
One of which I know of, and I'm excited.
Yes.
Which one is that?
We have the Riddler Year One by Paul Dano.
That's right.
Yeah,
We
let's
have
go.
the Gotham Knights Gilded City.
So did he
Comics.
write his own backstory in order to?
He wrote his own backstory before the film was ever
right,
filming.
and then they turned it into a comic.
And then Matt Reeves was like, I'm going to get in touch with DC
That's
Comics
cool.
people.
That's
'cause
so cool.
you
I
need to
love
write
that.
this,
I love
and
it
it's
for
great.
sure. All right, what else?
The Gotham Knights Gilded City comic, which
that comic
has two storylines. It has a Batman storyline, his last case, and the first vigilante of Gotham City, his case.
Wow.
Which are going to tie into Gotham Knights.
first
You also get an in-game item with each issue.
Oh, cool.
That's pretty cool.
Also, Detective Comics starting a new arc this week.
Nice.
There was Batman Beyond the White Knight. I think it's having its last issue, which is great.
Jeez. Okay. And then what else is happening this week?
Black Adam.
Black Adam's happening.
And Gotham
We're
Knights.
talking about Black Adam. Gotham Knights looks
Yes.
good too.
Yeah, I'm hyped
And
for
what
that game.
didn't they come up with like some like multiplayer thing last week?
They did a heroic assault.
All right.
So I'm excited. It's gonna be great.
All right. So why don't we talk about Black Adam?
We should.
All right. So we should get
go,
to
Nate, go.
Oh
Let's-
yeah, his notes aren't up on the
So
screen. Sorry.
who's that? Whose fault is that?
So
It's my fault.
Black
I
Adam
was still right about Sauron.
is a very tragic villain or anti-hero. It changes what
A
feels
tragic
like-
villain or an anti-hero?
Yeah,
Okay.
it changes what feels like every single comic he's in. It's
Okay.
different. But I'm going to kind of explain the origin of him in the comics, the new origin,
All right.
because there's multiple origins. This is the most recent canon one. So, Black Adam and his nephew, Amen, or something like that.
Amen.
A-M-A-N.
That's all.
So-
Aman.
Yeah.
Come on. Anyway,
Black Adam was a slave, which we know
Right.
is canon to this movie, and the rest of Black Adam's family was killed. Now, the Amen guy, his nephew, went and saved him, and they both almost died. Black Adam, Teth Adam is his real name, was on death's doorstep, and so was his nephew, and the wizards brought him to the Rock of Eternity, which we, see in Shazam.
Okay.
And this is when all the wizards were still alive, all of them, not just Shazam. And so they gave his powers, the wizards granted the powers to his nephew because he was good of heart, and not
Makes
Teth
sense.
Adam.
Right.
But the nephew said, "Please give my uncle powers because he's almost going to die." And they're like, "Well, your whole family will gain powers when you gain powers, so he'll be healed." And so he was healed.
Kind of like what happens with the Shazam family.
Yes.
Right.
And everything was fine. And Black
It's
Adam
making a lot of sense right now.
and Black Adam and his nephew was technically Shazam at that point. Black Adam wanted to kill all the dictators of Kahndaq
because they were killing him.
They were
and stuff?
slaves, slave owners, and they were kind of just making life
Bad guys.
terrible in Kahndaq. Yes.
Right.
And his nephew was like, "No, we should talk to them, reason with them, get them to see peace and not have any more bloodshed." And Black Adam didn't really like that. So he killed his nephew.
Whoa, that
Yes.
escalated quickly.
And killed everybody in Kahndaq and killed all the wizards except for Shazam and took the power of his nephew. And so Shazam banished him to
He's a bad dude.
to the place of beyond the stars and renamed him Black Adam.
That went from 0 to 100 real quick.
It does.
In the immortal words of Ron Burgundy, that escalated quickly.
That did. So Yeah, he's a bad guy, but eventually he comes back to Earth, and that's fine. And he rules from Kahndaq and all that stuff. So, do y'all think that this tragic, really dark backstory will get adapted into the movie?
No, because starting it off with that will make it very difficult to sympathize with this character at all. Plus, we see in the trailers, I think we see him cradling his, I guess, nephew or son, something like that.
I think it's his son.
In this, I think it's his son, yeah. So I don't think that that's going to be the case. It would be cool to see the Council of Wizards and stuff, yeah. And that very well could happen. We still don't know how he gets his powers in this movie.
You got to find that out.
Right, so it's probably going to end up being similar to that.
We've been having the same clips every trailer.
Right, which is good. They're playing it close to the vest. But I will be curious because he's clearly not very pure of heart from what we've seen. So it's going to be weird that they would just grant him powers without his nephew. So it'll be interesting to see how they navigate that. But they probably won't show the genocide thing.
I'm not sure we're going to see it exactly as you laid it out, but I do think that we're going to see something similar to that. I think it's going to be dark. I think that they want you to feel very uncomfortable with this character. And then they want him to do good things in this movie, but still be dangerous by the end.
Because that is
like a loose cannon.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's exactly where they're going to, or that kind of thing is exactly what they're going to say.
So a little bit more in the comics. Black Adam rules Kahndaq once more, and it's a pretty straightforward origin, but I'm, again, not sure how they're going to make him an anti-hero in the movie. Now, to kind of switch to the movie a little bit, it has been in production for an insane 15 years.
Well, in some way. I don't think actually production,
but
The
Rock has been working on it for 15 years.
That's a long time.
And it's finally being released. It has definitely had some bumps with changing directors, actors, and dealing with the ever so forgiving Motion Picture Association. They had to send about 5 cuts of this movie just to barely get a PG-13 rating, and that was only approved 4 weeks ago.
We need to release a whatever cut.
A red band cut.
Well, it's actually being rumored the director might actually put one of them on the Blu-ray because he said there's going to be a lot of special features that he might put on there. Because
I think that'd be a good idea because then people could still see it with younger audiences, but if they want to eventually watch the darker cut, they can.
So what do y'all think about the whole brutality and intensity of this movie that's being teased?
See, what's weird is from the trailers and stuff, haven't gotten that intensive a vibe from it. I mean, it's felt like just your standard superhero movie stuff. So it'll be surprising to see where they go with that because that's not the vibe I've been getting. But it makes sense for this character. He's a dark character. He's not going to be like your Batman, Superman, Daredevil type character where they want to show mercy and not go overboard when it comes to violence and stuff. But this guy, he does not give a care. The people he's up against, people are just insects really to him. So that it makes sense why that's in the movie.
I do not think that you're going to have it rated rated R push towards that based on violence. I mean, excuse me, sexuality or anything like that, nudity, sexuality.
That's not
and I also don't think that you're going in that from a direction of profanity. And the reason why is because profanity is easy to cut out. So if they sent this 4 times to the MPAA,
right,
that doesn't make sense for it to be about profanity.
No.
You can fix that. You know what the rules are. This is about violence.
It very much is.
This is about the Black Adam character not being a good guy. And so you're going to see violence. And I think that it may actually be violence related to this story you just talked about. Because if Black Adam
genocide's pretty dark,
kills his own nephew, a young child in this, that's the kind of stuff that gets an MPA rating of R.
Right.
That's hard to push past.
It's violence, but it's
violence against
behind
children.
The violence.
Violence against children, it skews rated R very quickly.
And genocide. Genocide's generally not.
When
cool.
the first reactions came out on last Wednesday, a bunch of people were talking about how brutal this movie was, how it shocked them how brutal it was, and they did not expect it. Some of them said it should have gotten an R rating.
So basically, you're saying that even though we got Mom a ticket to go see it this weekend, she's probably not going to see it.
Probably not.
Okay.
But the director was talking about this, and he's like, "We wanted to stay true to the character of Black Adam and have him be brutal and have him be violent because that's who he is in the comics." And so we wanted to make sure to get the PG-13 rating, but also stay true for the fans to keep Black Adam who he is.
So will it kind of be like Invincible toned down a little bit?
Probably.
That's kind of the direction I think that we're going to see in this. It's
like what Omni-Man did, but not as much.
That was
pretty dark.
That was kind of dark.
That was so dark. Okay. All right. Now, the Justice Society being related to Black Adam isn't something new. It happened a lot in the comics, and it looks to be a huge part of this movie. So, what do y'all think of the Justice Society, and which character are you looking forward to the most?
I'm going to go first because I didn't know anything about the Justice Society, but I do remember Hawkman as a kid as part of the Justice League show, and I loved Hawkman. And I heard a rumor today that there's actually talk of a Black Adam spin-off series on HBO Max or HBO, what is it? I bet it's Max, right?
Yeah,
Plus.
you're right.
I don't know why I wanted to say Disney Plus, HBO Max, I don't know. All those. It's on HBO Max featuring Hawkman as one of the main character of it.
Yeah, I heard you.
So I'm excited about Hawkman. So
That's cool. I mean, I gotta say Dr. Fate. I mean, it's such an interesting, cool character. Like magic characters in movies are always interesting because they can just do unbelievable things, right? So I'm more curious to see what they're gonna do to differentiate him enough from Doctor Strange, because they are very similar in a lot of ways.
Well, and even Pierce Brosnan said that the reason that he wanted to play this charter is because he's such a huge fan of Doctor Strange.
Was it him or his kids? I thought it was his kids.
Him and his kids, yeah.
That's cool. So, I like that, but I want them to be able to set him aside enough from Doctor Strange. But I think he's such a cool character. Pierce Brosnan is a fantastic actor, so that's going to be awesome.
Did you know
too.
he actually wore his real wedding ring in the movie?
Really?
To honor
That's
his
cool.
wife.
That's cool. I like
So,
that.
yeah.
Yeah. So
detour
I'm
for just a second. Did you hear today that it came out that Benedict Cumberbatch actually wrote individual scenes in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness because it wasn't dark enough?
And he actually wanted it to be
darker.
darker than it was.
I like your style, Benedict. That's
I
cool.
feel like it was going to be.
So, what are you most excited about in this movie, BB?
Most excited? What am I most excited about?
I mean, this is your deal. This is DC, right?
I don't know. I've heard of a good post-credit scene, but
we might have teased it last week and found out that it was right.
So, thanks, Grace Randolph.
Spoilers.
Yeah,
I'll wait for that, but whatever.
But I'm super excited for Dr. Fate. I love his character. I'm so excited to see that if they can differentiate him, if they focus on who he is from the comics and
his backstory and his
stuff, powers and where it comes from, and the helm and where that comes from, and the fact that when Kent Nelson is in Kent Nelson form, not in the helmet, it's a completely different person. But Dr. Fate, the person inside of the helmet, Nobu, which is the name of the Lord in the helmet, is out there. Kent Nelson's not a part of it.
This is more like a puppet.
So it becomes a very different personality, different character.
Yes, it's more brutal.
Okay,
Nobu's very brutal. So, but Kent Nelson's normally the one that holds him back and keeps him from being
kind of like a Moon Knight sort of idea.
Very much, just Moon Knight mixed with Doctor Strange. That's a good way.
Interesting.
So I'm super excited for that. So last thing, we always do this before a big movie or TV show.
Prediction sure to go wrong.
Prediction sure to go wrong.
Man, I haven't thought about predictions.
I mean, other than an end credit scene that isn't so outside the realm of possibility anymore.
Thanks.
I don't know. Like, that was going to be my crazy prediction. Maybe this isn't so crazy, but I'd like to see something with Shazam. Some sort of reference or even on-screen Shazam that we know from the DC. Great. That would be cool. I mean, because obviously they're very much related in the comics. Like, they've got the same powers from the same dude. So I want to see that, and I want it to kind of set up a possible like Black Adam versus Shazam fight, because I think that would be a really interesting story. You would have the absolute brutality and darkness of Black Adam juxtaposed with a kid as a superhero. I mean, those are as polar
chosen
opposite.
For purity of heart,
right? Those are about as polar opposite as you can get. So I think that would make a really cool story. So hopefully we get something like that teased.
An explanation for the empty seat in Shazam.
That's Black Adam's seat.
I think so.
Oh,
the end,
because there's not enough kids to fill up the.
Yeah.
That's a good point. I didn't think of that.
Maybe
get a big team up movie.
That would be pretty cool, though. I like that.
Maybe we'll get a giant Justice League movie and Black Adam will be a part of it.
That would be pretty cool. What about you? What's your crazy prediction?
I don't know. I mean,
you know this so well. You've been keeping an eye on it without getting spoiled on the story, right?
Yeah,
you got spoiled on the end credit, but you haven't been spoiled on the story.
Nothing else.
Okay.
That's good.
Gosh, there's so much that can happen because we don't know. This is like Dwayne has said, and what I've heard from other people who have seen the movie. This is a new era for DC. This is the next chapter.
Which is what
we've already had the beginning
do.
part. Now this is the next part of it, and so whatever it is, I really think I'd love to see maybe a reference or something to Batman.
That would be
Bruce
cool.
Wayne, maybe from Amanda Waller or something like that.
That'd be cool.
I know that in the cast list and some set photos, I was in a featurette from Black Adam. Somebody from Peacemaker was in it, so they're tying that into. Not that I really care, but
I mean, it's still
cool
interconnecting
that
the
they're
universe
connecting things as well. So I just hope it's a good movie.
I'm sure it will be. It sounds like everybody seems to be pretty excited about it.
So Black Adam comes out in just a couple days, and I can barely wait. I'm super excited. So please go get tickets and see this movie as soon as you can on the biggest screen you can.
The biggest screen you can.
Amen.
We're seeing it at IMAX twice in the first week.
Twice.
Let's go.
That's right. Let's do it. Very good job. Good segment.
Good segment, Nate.
It's a great way to navigate that when there's a bunch of spoilers out there and you don't want to get spoiled yourself. So that was good. Awesome. All right. So we're headed into that weird space between A New Hope and The Empire Strikes Back. Lots of canon and legends content in there. What will today's Is It Canon be?
This is not going to go the way you think.
All right. Again, how the segment works. I give a description of something I found on Wikipedia after hitting the random article button first time this time again.
Nice.
You guys make an argument for whether or not you think it's canon or legends and why. Are we ready?
Ready.
All right. Stellar Energy Station.
Okay.
Stellar.
It's stellar, man. Yeah. Following the disruption. That's a new word. Hey.
We'll coin it.
Disruption. All right. Following the destruction of the first Death Star, the bounty hunter Score used the energy station as his base of operations. He held Luke Skywalker and Leia Organa captive there to lure Han Solo into his trap. Fortunately for the heroes of Yavin, Solo and Chewbacca outwitted Score and returned with Skywalker and Organa to the local spaceport.
Gosh.
The
canon or legend
to it.
The only thing I could think of that this would be canon is from a certain point of view, Empire Strikes Back.
Oh.
A story from that.
Not comics or something?
I was going to go comic.
I don't feel
because
like
Nathan, think about it. From a certain point of view, happens during the movie, not in between.
And before?
Not that much before.
They have some stories everywhere.
Okay.
Okay.
All
Like
right.
It's his argument. Let him make it.
That's fair.
it can be that. I feel like it could be canon, but I'm not 100% sure. I don't know enough of legend stuff in between New Hope and
RPG.
Empire.
It's an RPG.
It's an RPG. Yep, that's it. But I mean, is Heir to the Empire in between New Hope and Empire?
No, that's after
Heir to
6.
the Empire, it takes
after
place
6.
after 6.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So I don't know of a ton of stuff. I'm going to say canon, I guess. I don't know how. I'm just kind of...
You're just going for canon.
Shooting blind and hoping I hit something.
All right.
I'm going canon just because the plot sounds perfect for a comic. Short, sweet, and to the point. You can wrap that up in 1 or 2 issues real easy. 3 if you're really stretching it. It doesn't have a ton of impact on canon like story, so wedging that in there is not going to make any crazy waves. So it sounds perfect for comic, so I'm going to go comic and therefore canon.
A canon comic. It is from The Bounty Hunter of Ord Mantell. The Bounty Hunter of Ord Mantell is a comic strip written by Archie Goodwin and illustrated by Al Williamson, originally published in February 1981 by the Los Angeles Times Syndicate. It was later reprinted in Amazing Heroes magazine 1-5. It was republished by Dark Horse Comics in Classic Star Wars 1 and up to page 15 of Classic Star Wars 2. And then it was republished again on StarWars.com's web strips section of Hyperspace, which is where people like Pablo Hidalgo and Matt Martin got their start.
Oh, cool.
And was made available to the public after penciler Al Williamson passed away on June 14th, 2010. Therefore, it is Legends. So it was a comic.
Yeah. Just not what I was thinking.
But I thought that was interesting.
That is interesting.
That is a kind of cool thing. I mean,
I remember Star Wars comics.
You don't realize how much content for Star Wars there really is out there until you do stuff like this.
It's
like it's incredible.
Yeah, very much.
It's a lot of fun. I think I like having this segment.
I do
on
too.
here. Otherwise, we just talk about Grace Randolph all the time.
Yeah, it's just not fun.
All right, Sam, go.
That's me. Yeah. Well, that Rings of Power finale was incredible.
It was okay.
Hey.
Oh, no, I'm just kidding. It was good.
Gosh.
We have so much
Waste
to
of time.
discuss, so we're going to talk about all of the reveals and big moments and what we can expect to see in season 2.
Be on your guard. There are older and fouler things than orcs in the deep places of the world.
All right, then, keep your secrets.
Your coming to us is as the footsteps of steps and
There are many magic rings in this world, Bilbo Baggins, and none of them should be used lightly.
Do I need to pull up my proof?
There is no proof. You guys have said it on the show. I mean, how many episodes do you guys say that the stranger was Sauron? The stranger was Sauron.
I said the stranger was Sauron because I was genuinely concerned he was, but I want it to be known that during the San Diego Comic-Con panel, when Sammy was getting his teeth ripped out of his face, I was following it, and I was reading everything they were talking about with the stranger, and I messaged you guys. I'm like, this guy is Gandalf. I'm calling it now.
All right.
And so I called it months before it started.
Okay. So we'll come back over here. Sam, you were wrong.
Yes.
And I was
if
right.
we're going off the bit I was playing the last episode, yeah, but if you remember, roll back the tapes, I actually said, but in all seriousness, I do think Halbrand is actually Sauron.
Okay.
So,
All right.
yes and no. But
right.
before we go any further, I want to get y'all's rating of the finale on a scale of 1 to 10 big reveals.
I'll let you go first, Sam. Nate, you're Nate.
I'm Sam.
You're Sam, aren't you?
I am.
Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm leading this.
The other one's Nate.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Nate.
Always
go.
has been.
We're trying to stall for you. Come on, we can't do it much longer.
Pick a number.
I don't know. It was really good.
You're tied between
9, 8, 10.
I'm tied between like 9 and 10 right now.
I figured
because
you were.
I mean, I had no faults with it. I mean, I'm gonna give it a 9 because we had no Bronwyn or Undir. We don't know what they're doing. We had no Durin, and no Adar, and they set up that whole plot with Isildur's sister and that Palantir stuff.
Yeah, we'll talk about all
and
that.
never answered that. So there's a few things I would have liked more of. A few more answers than questions, so I could be held over. But again, the questions are going to keep me speculating until the next season comes out. So overall, I'm not disappointed. But I just would have liked to see Durin, and maybe Durin the third dying,
Getting eaten by a Balrog or something.
Yeah, I don't know.
I would say that I was exactly where I was going to go, was a 9, and for the same reasons that he talked about. There was just some loose ends that weren't tied up as well in this season.
That's
and
fair.
it wasn't like they were cliffhanger loose ends. They were just loose ends with it. And so that could...
Or strings leading to the next season.
It's almost like they expected to have 2 like longer episodes or something to be able to tell the rest of those stories, and didn't. It's what it felt
I think
like.
they've been planning for a 5-season story from the beginning, and they're just leading into season 2.
Just sharing my number. So mine's the number. What's yours?
I'm gonna give it. I think I got to go for a 10, and my reasoning behind it is we got so many like answers, but like lore and backstory behind some of the things in Lord of the Rings. We know somewhat where Sauron comes from now.
Well,
right?
we know what in this story the Sauron is, because
in
we
my
don't
head-
have that.
In my head, it's going to be canon because I don't know much else. You know, we got an explanation for Gandalf. We got reasoning. Sorry. Well, yeah, if we're talking about this, then
If it's on the show, it's a spoiler. We don't care. So
you know, we got an explanation for the rings of power and stuff, where the first ones came from, why they were made. So I loved it because it's already going to make watching the movies a different experience.
You know, Stuart, I was at a meeting with him today, and during a break, he mentioned that he was, you know, because for those of you listening, Stuart, Pastor Stuart, our Stuart, you've had him. He was on the show a couple months. We did an episode with him about the Matrix. But anyway, our pastor, he came over Friday night and watched the finale of the season with us.
Yes.
With it, and he loved it, right? But he said that he runs like several miles a day,
Right.
On a treadmill.
On a treadmill,
Yeah.
And he watches movies and TV shows
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So he's rewatching the director's cuts, and he's like, it hits different
The Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, he's
I
like,
bet.
it hits
Darn.
different.
I guess we gotta watch it.
I know.
Oh, dang. Yeah. All right. And then a rating of the series overall on a scale of 1 to 10 Rings of Power.
I'm going to give it an 8. Whoa. No, I mean,
if this is IGN though, it's got to be like great.
No, it's an 8. I think that there were moments that were a little slower than they needed to be, especially early on. With it, and they could have picked those things up. I do think that they left too many loose ends with it, and I think that they hurt themselves with a couple of lines that feel at this point like throwaway lines, but have created controversy for no reason. That I think that was a bad, and the most important one being when Galadriel talks about her husband. It comes across like she believes her husband is dead.
Celeborn, yeah, and we know in the movies and later stories,
and so people are like, "That's that doesn't work."
They also think they're breaking Isildur's dead at this point, and we know he can't be.
I agree. I mean, I went
for 2 years.
Yeah,
right.
I went back and watched episode 7 that day before we watched
where she talks
while
about
I was working on some stuff. She never. It's never confirmed that he's dead. He went to war
and didn't come back.
He never came back, and that's what. But watching it, we can sit there and say, "Oh, it's clear he's going to come back," and we know he is in the Lord of the Rings trilogy and stuff like that. But at this point, that's been a controversy. Just little things like that.
Right, I get it. Nate,
I'm gonna give it a 9. 9.5, something like that. I mean, like the only problem I had were the loose ends. I didn't have a problem with the pacing. The slower the stuff, normally I like it more because I like the character development, and it had a lot of that. I really liked the characters. The writing was good. I enjoyed it. The production value and the set,
incredible.
Everything was
absolutely
stunning. It was great, but I didn't really have any problems minus the loose ends and during the third not dying.
I mean, I'm going to give it a 9. And the only thing I don't have a problem with the pacing or anything like that. And maybe this is just me being spoiled with the movies, but a couple more action scenes probably couldn't have hurt. I can only really think of one or two.
Well,
and I'm not saying that it's bad that it didn't have it. I think every minute it had on screen, I think was used well. I just would have liked a little more action because the action in Lord of the Rings is pretty cool. I mean,
and I wanted more Harfoots.
More Harfoots. I had a lot of Harfoots.
So that's my reasoning behind it.
I gotta say this. Tolkien didn't have a ton of action in his book, so the way that they set all of this up was very accurate to how Tolkien wanted the stories to be.
I'm not complaining.
That's
a personal choice. So, now kind of getting more into the episode and some predictions that actually
I was right. You were wrong.
We were right on.
I was right. And you were wrong.
But Dad, at the beginning of that episode, you were really upset.
I was very angry.
Gosh, I was playing with you all day.
Yeah,
I said I almost got spoiled because I saw the stranger's name in a post, and
Sam, have I explained to you that you're my favorite?
No,
finally
you haven't.
Thank God. It
After what happened on Rings of Power finale day, BB Nate's no longer my favorite.
Yeah, nice. Let's
it was
go.
great. I loved messing with you.
He
so much.
Totally messed with me. Yeah,
so many times.
I was very angry. That opening sequence,
which they didn't. I was so confused because they did the recap and went straight into the episode. Didn't have a title.
Yeah.
That
I was like,
weird.
what's going on? And I'm like, oh my gosh, they're really trying to screw with us.
They did screw with us. Yeah, it was funny because Lucas Pinkard, Reverend of the Reprobate, he texted me earlier that day and he's like, have you seen the finale of the Rings of Power yet? And I'm like, no, don't tell me nothing. I haven't seen any. We're watching it tonight. And he just sent me the three emojis of the zipped mouth emoji with it. Later on, he texted me after it was over. I texted him and told him we were done, and I was like, "They did us dirty with that." But anyway, he replied back and he said that him and his amazing bride were sitting there watching this, and he was like, "David is going to be so angry during this opening." Yeah. He was right. BB Nate, what was my reaction from your side of the room?
You were not happy,
I don't think I've ever seen him get that upset at a TV show.
And even before,
I was so
you
pissed.
were. You were very anxious before this episode because you didn't want that to happen.
Really anxious.
And I was just laughing at your reaction because I'm like, this episode isn't over yet.
Yeah, I know. It was like
And
5 minutes
something's
in.
gonna happen.
Yeah, and Stewart's there being the pastor. He's like, it's early. You know, they were going to spoil it that early.
exactly.
You know, that kind of, I'm
Right.
like, I was just mad.
You
I
were
was
really just mad.
Mad. I felt betrayed, honestly.
You're gonna join in with all the.
I literally
We're gonna
was like,
start commenting on our own posts. Y'all are shills. you
Yeah,
know?
I'm like, I'm gonna start a YouTube channel. I'm going toxic. You know, Geeks and Gamers is gonna be like, you know, they're gonna be like mild compared to me right now.
Do not mention that name.
So anyway,
Yeah, you were upset, but yeah. And then Nate, what were your thoughts when Halbrand kind of walked into the forge there? Man,
I'll tell you what my thought was when he started
Relief?
talking. It was relief. Yeah, I was like, oh,
It's like, oh, thank God, there's Sauron. He's doing evil
that's a
things.
very
We like that.
Sauron thing for him to do. And wait, he's got to be with Kellen Brimbor. That makes more sense than the stranger. Those jerks. That's exactly what I thought. So,
I'm like, oh yeah, this is it. And I looked at Sam. I'm like, yep.
We both shared that look.
Yes,
We're like, yeah,
it's finally happening. And gosh, that scene when he walked into that forge was perfect because that is so Sauron-esque and playing into the ego of Celebrimbor.
Yeah,
he's like the great Celebrimbor. He's amazing. I've looked up to
love
him for
that
so
guy.
long. And Celebrimbor's like, yeah, I'm amazing. He's like, yeah, of course, I'm great. Yeah, and then he plays with him. He's like, yeah, I am Celebrimbor. He's
so
like,
manipulative.
No way.
It was like Palpatine-esque.
Yeah.
Like prequel era Palpatine.
Yeah,
very much.
those are the best villains, the ones that manipulate everything.
Because Sauron does that. And Celebrimbor, the actor for him, said that before this in the San Diego Comic-Con panel. He's like, Celebrimbor is very easily manipulated. And we might be seeing that in this. And so I'm happy they went that way, and it was great.
That was cool. Now, I kind of... What did you guys think about the reasoning behind why the rings were made? Because as far as I know, maybe it is explained in the books, but most of my knowledge comes from the movies, so I don't know. But, we didn't have a reasoning for why the rings were made before this, at least in live action. So what did y'all think about that?
I mean, it made sense, and I was wondering how they were going to, deal with the whole elves are going to die kind of thing.
Right.
The rings being the way that they survived makes sense. I'm just not sure how the dwarves are going to get rings and the men are going to get rings.
I think it's going to be kind of like, for lack of a better term, an arms race. Sauron's going to go to, probably in a different form, to the dwarves and be like, hey, I heard that the elves over there are making themselves these super powerful rings, right? They're probably going to you got that meat thrill. They need more of it. Y'all should probably make yourselves some if you want to stand up. And then he's going to go to the men and be like, look what the elves and dwarves did. They're probably going to gang up on you.
Which is kind of Tolkien-esque because Tolkien, he inserts, he was influenced by sort of World War I, World War II type stuff.
So I was reading a little bit of Fellowship of the Ring, and he put a foreword in there, and he's like, "Look, everybody wants to think that there was influence and allegory in this. I promise you, there wasn't. But
I don't know necessarily if there's influence. I mean, not necessarily allegory, but this was he lived through
right.
World War
So it's
I.
going to
he
affect
lived
him in
through
some
those
way.
things. It's going to impact your worldview, and I could see him making an arms race. I thought that's interesting. Maybe he goes to the dwarves and they're having this Balrog issue, and they need to have some way to conquer that, and the men are already under siege
to survive. Yeah,
so y'all need some rings to get up.
It's about power. We've got to remember that. The rings are about power.
Right.
So
and control. Yeah. Now I have a question for something I don't quite understand in this episode. But why didn't Galadriel tell Elrond and Celebrimbor that Halbrand is Sauron?
I don't know.
Because I still think there is a part of her that is very dark.
Yeah, I mean, she admits that
there
in
was
the show.
a slight. I mean, that little evil grin at the end when she was looking at the rings was a little creepy. I mean, you don't look like that. Kind of like that.
Sorta,
yeah. And so there is a part of her that wanted the power that Halbrand was offering. And I still think there is some of that.
Makes sense too, because you go to Fellowship of the Ring, right? And Frodo offers her the One Ring of Power, the very thing that she needs to just take over. And she even does. She says some of the lines that are almost identical. Right.
It's pretty terrifying.
She says some lines that are almost identical to what Halbrand says to her in that weird vision thing, right? But then when she declines it, she's like, "I've passed." You know, I was like, "I've passed the test," basically, which is probably something she's been dealing with ever since that moment. So
Yeah, I think that's a legitimate explanation.
I think that makes sense.
Yeah, very good. You're a smart guy.
Yeah, he is pretty smart. Now that we, know who Gandalf and Sauron are in the series, we know who's who. How do you guys feel about our Gandalf and Sauron in the series?
I love Gandalf. Gosh,
I love both of them.
Me too. I do love both of them. They're great. But Gandalf, that was great. I mean, the whole follow your nose line at the end.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, God. Give it to me. And the fact that he was questioning who he was, and they showed me who I really was, and Nori's like, that's not who you are.
I love Nori.
You can make who you be, and he's like, all right, and so he absolutely destroys the Mystic.
That was so cool. Go back to the shadows.
Yes, almost very Balrog.
Yeah,
as you shall not pass, and using their own staff against them,
turning them into those mobs.
Awesome.
And stuff.
It was so cool.
I love this Gandalf.
Yes.
Okay. And I love how they are enriching the story to answer the question that we never even thought to ask, which is, why does Gandalf have such an affinity for the hobbits?
Yeah.
And so now you know why Gandalf has such an affinity for the hobbits. He's had this affinity for millennia with them.
Right.
All the way back to Nori rescuing him in this episode. Telling him that's not, you get to choose who you are. You don't have to be who you be. With that. So I love that. And I love that Halbrand is Sauron because he was a great Sauron. It is, I know I said it earlier, but it is very Palpatine in the prequels.
Even when he's talking to Galadriel, she's like, you told me that you were king or something, right? Or that.
No, you said that I was the king.
He's like, look, I told you I picked this up off of a dead man. He's almost, I don't know if he ever really lied.
I know. It's so
very
good.
Sith. I love it. Oh, man.
So good.
Yeah, they nailed it with that.
And you guys did call that all the way back in episode 2 or 3, I guess it was 3, when he took on those people at Numenor, and he was super violent. And you guys sitting there, you were like, "Is he Sauron?" I mean, that's right. That's where that
was
went,
very sudden. Yeah. So. But as y'all were mentioning, we didn't get anything for Arondir and Bronwyn's storyline. Nothing for Durin's storyline, or Iarian's story in Numenor, Isildur's sister, or Adar's takeover of Mordor. So, what were y'all's thoughts on that? They left a lot out in this episode.
I mean, it's a little strange. I don't get why they didn't kind of answer some of these questions. But then again, I mean, I've got to think of, the shows do this a lot. I even think Daredevil season 1 did it. At the end, they had a whole montage of all the stuff that's going to be set up in season 2 that he's going to have to deal with. They had a little, and they can't do a montage in this because it wouldn't work. Rings of Power montage wouldn't fit. And so I get it. They were setting things up for the next season, even if it was in episodes past, not in this episode. I'm fine with that. But I don't know, show a little bit of them in this episode, which they did with Isildur's sister, which is fine. That was fine. But Arondir and Bronwyn, what are happening with them? How are they dealing with this whole Mordor Southlands thing? And Durin, how is he dealing with the Balrog? What happened with... And Isildur. Where's Isildur? And his horse. What's the horse doing? And so there's a lot I don't know. And what is going to happen with Numenor and Elendil and Miriel and her not having an insight?
I think that... it feels like there's those open-ended things were intentional with it. But the big thing that they needed to resolve in this was
who is
that
who and where the rings come
the stranger
from.
Was Gandalf.
Yeah,
at that point, I didn't care about anything else. I didn't even care if we got Sauron revealed. I just needed to know that the stranger was
Not Sauron.
Was Gandalf.
They answered the questions that most desperately needed to be answered in that show. Is like who's who, specifically really where's Sauron,
now you can breathe.
and where the rings come from. Because if there weren't any rings of power in the rings of power,
it's funny how we're not really talking about that as much as we should. But
What?
the rings being forged?
Well, I mean, yes, it's cool, but like that's it. That's kind of the start of the story. But I mean, if they didn't show rings of power being made in the rings of power, I can only imagine what the trolls would do about that.
Well,
so
they aren't going to be happy anyway. So.
Well, true, but it would just been more fuel for the fire, literally. But overall, what do you guys think that we see in next season? You know, we still have that Sauron storyline where he's kind of looks like he's going to Mordor, and Gandalf and Nori are off going to Rune or something like that.
Rune,
and then you know, all the other storylines that we saw previously mentioned. So like, do we see the other rings being forged? What's the reasoning going to be for those? Well, we kind of discussed that.
Yeah,
but like, do you think we see that?
I think we're going to be seeing a lot of just where do we go from here? You know, who's who? More of that. I'm not surprised that there's a lot more we don't know, and they're finally getting into the place where they can start talking about things that were in the Silmarillion and the Second Age and things, because they had to set that stuff up to get from the canon stories. And so I do hope we see a lot of Gandalf and Nori. I think we will. I hope we see them encounter maybe some of our other characters.
You think we see some of the other wizards?
Oh, that'd be cool.
We see, we see the friendship between Radagast and Gandalf.
That would be cool.
Arise, because I could see that working very well in this series, and that would be awesome. I love that.
Well, and I do think that we need to see Saruman as a good guy.
Right, because that's what he starts off.
And you know,
as.
he's that way somewhat in the Hobbit. He's somewhat.
He's the leader of his kind.
Right. And so we need to see that. And I think that that's where Rune is. I think that's what we start seeing with Rune, with all of that. And then I do think that Sauron, I think the next thing Sauron's doing is going to
kill Adar.
To Moria. He's going to Durin. He's going to help them with the Balrog.
He's at Mordor,
though. Mordor right now.
Yeah, he's got to go through Mordor. He's got to deal with Adar. But I think that the next big plot line location is going to be the dwarves.
I hope we see the blue dwarf or the blue wizards, because we only hear about them in the movies.
That's true.
And stuff. I think that would be kind of cool to see.
So there's 5 wizards, right?
So there's the 2 blue, Radagast, Saruman, and
right, and we
Gandalf.
don't know anything about the blue wizards.
Not much.
Okay, I think that would be fun.
Yeah, I think that'd be cool. And then I kind of hope we see Sauron like not kill Adar. I hope he turns Adar into the mouth of Sauron.
I think it would work,
because that's like, you know,
I'm not sure I track with what the mouth of Sauron
He's
is.
the dude in Return of the King. Not the Witch King.
No.
That's one of the 9 men. He's the dude who talks to Aragorn in Return of the King outside the gates with the creepy mouth and stuff.
Okay.
I think it'd be cool because like that's almost like a living torture.
That is cool.
I read where like some of the commentary behind why he looks the way he looks and stuff, why his mouth is like just grotesquely large and like just formed and stuff, is because it's like the words of Sauron are so like evil and impure, it's literally degrading his mouth as he says them. So I think that'd be kind of like a cool punishment for Adar. That is cool. And then Nate, you mentioned something that one of the showrunners mentioned could be kind of a plot for season 2. Could you explain that?
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to Sauron, they're very excited for this because they said, now that everybody knows Halbrand is Sauron, we can do so much. We don't have to kind of play with this. We can make him evil. And they're wanting to explore the different eras of Sauron. I mean, in the books, we do have a repentant Sauron, and that's what we're seeing in this right now.
That's true.
A Sauron that feels some remorse, but then turns evil. And they're like, we're not going to kind of go away from that. He's going to be evil, but we have to go through this part of who he is at this point. And Charlie Vickers is very excited. The actor who plays Halbrand and Sauron, he's very excited now that he is fully evil. He never actually wore the Sauron suit. In the show, not even at the beginning or in the reflection. He's like, I really hope I get fitted for one soon. He's like, I want to wear it.
It's like the Darth Vader suit, right?
I mean, it kind of.
Yeah, it is. And so he's super excited for it. And the showrunner said, now that we have this and we're getting into an era of the Second Age that we can pull from, we're going to be seeing more canon stories, especially for Sauron, in this next
they have more to
season
pull from?
because we are now allowed to do this because
That's cool.
They were allowed very little from the Tolkien estate, and so now that they can pull from it, they're going to be using that a lot. And they had a lot of stuff they had to just make up in this first season.
Very exciting. That's cool. That's awesome.
Well, I genuinely feel bad for people who gave up on this series early. That finale was one of the best TV experiences I had. We were cheering and hollering.
We were cheering.
It was so much fun.
Yeah.
But this series was full of intrigue and excitement, and it absolutely stayed true to Tolkien, right down to the very last song during the end credits that we actually ended up staying through the credits for just because of the song. I was already a big Lord of the Rings fan before this series, but after that, I think I'm even more into this amazing universe and its story. And it's going to be a very long wait.
You need to have a day off of work just so you can binge the whole series.
I might call in sick. Sorry.
The showrunners and heads of Amazon are trying their best to get this out in 2023 with keeping the quality.
Yeah, I was like, I don't care how long they take as long as it stays good.
If it came out in 2023, I would be blown away, but I hope so.
Those poor VFX.
They already have kind of some of the stuff ready.
Yeah, they've created
I saw the first images from some of the first sets for season 2 already. It looks like it's the ruined village in Southlands.
Very cool. Well, that was good. Good job, Sam.
Thank you.
And I was right and you were wrong. All right.
I was technically sort of right.
You were not right. I was right. Anyway, all right. Well, we've already talked about the big movie that comes out this weekend. I guess it's Black Adam is like a big movie. But there's actually another movie releasing that has some big stars in it that I'm almost certainly going to have to see in the theater.
Yeah. Whether you like to or not.
For the reasons that you think.
That's next on Movie Moments.
At last we will reveal ourselves to the Jedi. At last we will have revenge.
All right, of course we have Black Adam, but the other release this weekend is Ticket to Paradise.
2 tickets to paradise.
Yeah. You see how I paused there waiting?
You knew it was coming.
I knew it was
I was already singing it before we even started.
It's about the Academy Award winners George Clooney and Julia Roberts reunite on the big screen as exes who find themselves on a shared mission to stop their love-struck daughter from making the same mistake they once made. From working titles, Smokehouse Pictures, and Red Om Films. Wow, that's a lot of production studios. Ticket to Paradise is a romantic comedy about the sweet surprise of second chances. Aw.
I won't sing another song.
Director is Old Parker. Cast
Barry Manilow going through my head right there.
Cast is George Clooney and Julia Roberts. Already mentioned them. Studio is Universal. It is rated PG-13 for some strong language and brief suggestive material. Sammy and I aren't going.
You guys have to come too.
No, I have Gotham Knights to play at an ACT. So,
we're going that afternoon to Black Adam.
Exactly.
So you're not going to have time to. I have to see it with Mom sometime this weekend. I'm thinking.
Yes.
Okay, that'll be fun. It'll be fun.
Y'all will like it. That's not up.
And it'll make her happy.
Maybe it'll end up being tied to the Ocean's universe.
Hopefully, it'll be better than that Sandra Bullock, Channing Tatum movie we saw.
Lost City.
That was terrible. Anyway. Yeah.
That Bullet Train was better.
Bullet Train was better.
Channing Tatum movie. Yeah, that's true. For trailers, A Christmas Story, Christmas, the surprise sequel to Christmas Story. It's coming out on HBO Max
in like a month.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
Yeah,
it flew under the radar. I'm not sure how to.
It was
really
just
feel
an
about
all
this.
nostalgia based trailer. I don't know
I'm not sure how to really feel about it.
I know. I'm kind of like, part of me is like,
you don't make
stop defiling it's not defiling like a grave or anything, but it's like it's sacred. Stop touching it.
There are some movies you don't make sequels of,
right?
So.
But also part of me is kind of like morbidly curious.
Yeah,
and still almost want to watch it. I'll see what people say.
I hope it's good.
Me too.
For box office results, there is no surprise this weekend. Halloween Ends made first place with 41 million domestic.
Wow.
That's big for a horror movie.
Huge.
It's a big deal.
It is. It's the 6th I found out, by the way.
Smile, 12 million domestic. Still pretty good
for
a
an
second.
even a not a franchise horror movie.
That's very true. And Lyle Lyle Crocodile, 7 million domestic.
That's it.
Yeah, kind of nothing very surprising with that one.
Dad?
I think it's time we move on.
I think so.
Yeah. Once episode 6 of Andor started, it never really slowed down. It was pretty good. But the ending wasn't like any I expected when it comes to Cassian.
Hokey religions and ancient weapons are no match for a good blaster at your side, kid.
Rebellions are built on hope.
Force is with me, and I am with the Force. If you live long enough, you see the same eyes in different people.
John's old Polaroid camera had such a major role in this episode with Nemec.
I saw that. That was cool.
Exactly like
That's
that.
so Star Wars.
AK-47s and Polaroid cameras.
Okay, well, I'm still not a huge fan of AK-47s. They didn't mess with those enough to make them not obvious. But I did like what they did with the Polaroid. That's so Star Wars. You take something old and you just like throw a bunch of greeblies and random stuff all over it, and there you go. It's Star Wars.
Yep, it was very cool. All right, let's talk about some of these major points. One thing, let's talk a little bit about Nemec.
Mouse,
poor dude,
Mouse, poor guy. Yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute, but not right in this second. Anyway, one thing has become crystal clear in the previous 2 episodes of Andor that Nemec is a true believer. Was, yeah. Early in episode 6, he has another fascinating conversation with Cassian where he rationalizes Cassian's mercenary status while also making it clear that he believes Cassian will one day join the cause. And then he has a real deep down reason behind it. So, Sam, at this point in the story, is Cassian in it for anything more than the money?
I think the seed has been planted of that idea, but I don't think that's his reasoning yet. He's still in it for the money, I think, but he's going to start, ruminating about maybe there's more to this, right? He's probably going to, get back into contact with, I already forgot the guy's name. Luthen Rails. He's probably going to get back in contact with him, and he's going to give him another job maybe, or Mon Mothma needs Luthen to do something, and Luthen reaches out to Cassian, something like that, because I think Cassian's realizing, the Empire's really, really not good. They've done some really bad things, and I might be able to make a difference. But I think at this point, he's just kind of in over his head and just kind of wants to take a break. He's very similar to, I think, kind of Jin's position. He's like you can see him being able to relate to Jin later because of these things. Like he needs a way out. He needs security, right? He doesn't have that. All he's got is a little bit of money, and that's it in this galaxy. So being a part of a larger organization will provide him that security he needs, and I think he's starting to agree with their mission.
I really think that Cassian is in it for the money right now, but I think that he's seeing that there's something more to it and will eventually become a true believer because we see it happen. I am wondering because the director said this episode 7 is going to be very important and go away from the arc format for a little bit and change it. Did I steal something from your notes?
That's okay. It's all right.
It's all right. You're just fired.
I was just going to speculate.
It's just another reason why Sam is my favorite.
Can I continue?
You can continue.
Okay. Well, I do think that the next episode is Cassian searching for his sister.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
And I'm almost 100% sure his sister has already joined in with the rebellion.
Ooh.
And his sister is going to
die
at some point, and that's what's going to make Andor join the rebellion, become a true believer.
Thanks for the buzzkill there, BB.
Well, I was pretty good with predictions.
Yeah,
this
you
week,
got that.
So.
Let's see if you're right on this one. All right,
hope so.
Let's keep going and talk a little bit about the Empire here. In other stories, we've seen how the Empire manipulates planets and people to bow to their wishes. They have things like Empire Day celebrations to create this faux patriotism around it, and then they also conscript populations of soldiers in order to be a part of the Empire, so that they serve it and that type of thing. On Tahani, it was really interesting. The Empire has turned the people's religious ceremony against them by forcing the prices for accommodations on these pilgrimages to. You okay there?
Sorry, I dropped something.
Yeah, that's okay. All right. For the accommodations to kind of come to rise to completely exorbitant levels where they can't afford it, and then offering imperial alternatives for free with that. And so then the pride of the Tahani people won't let them accept the imperial freebies, and they can't afford the others, so they skip the celebration altogether, and that's intentional, we find out throughout this. So BB Nate, what do you think about this tactic?
It's very imperial. I mean, we've been seeing it, and it's just cruel. It's evil. And we saw that from the leader on that base on Tahani.
Oh, yeah.
It was cruel. He was
Zachariah from
Zachariah.
Oh my gosh, it is.
You didn't realize
You didn't remember that?
I was like, where do I recognize
Zachariah.
You didn't get that.
in the Nativity story.
Oh my gosh! Yes, I picked up
Very
on that from the
180
trailer.
there with his character.
Yeah,
Wow.
he was.
That makes more sense now.
There you go.
I'm never going to see that character the same way again.
Well, you won't see him again.
Well, I end up watching the episode. I will. So.
But he was cruel to his wife and his son, who was sick, and he still made him go to the ceremony. I mean, that's just not a good father, not a good husband.
We
He
have
was a
not
jerk.
seen a lot of nice families.
Yeah,
in this
where are all the
movie.
freaking happy families in Star Wars?
There are no happy families in Star Wars.
Why? Is it all found
I mean,
families that have
it
to be
is.
happy?
It's honestly a lot of found family in this
I mean,
story.
Rebels, they're a found family. They're super happy. But I was going to say Hera and Kanan and Jason, but Kanan's dead. So, come on, Star Wars. I want happy.
Just one happy. I'll give you one happy family.
Who?
Bail, Brea, and Leia.
Until they blew up.
Until they blow up. Can we have
say
a
Aunt
happy
Beru and
family?
Uncle Owen? They were pretty cool until they got fried to a crisp.
So what's the deal? But I think that the tactic of using the religious parts of the Tahani people against them and giving them these comfort stations with free drinks and stuff to make them not go, it's manipulative, it's cruel. And it's what the Empire is. And it's why these people, why Nemec was so against them. And why we all, it's been this debate since episode 4 came out of are the rebels really the bad guys? They're the terrorists. They went against the Empire. And now this is showing there's no doubt, there shouldn't be a doubt in anyone's mind that the Empire are the evil ones here. They are terrible
I do think
people.
that's an interesting point that you make there, BB Nate, because one of the things that's happened in the Disney era, and it's not a bad move in the Disney era, is allowing us to see that the Empire thinks that they're the good guys and why.
Right. I mean,
and you see that in a lot. But then this series seems to be showing, yes, they may think that they're the good guys, but they are the bad guys. And I love that about this. What is your thought about this tactic, Sam?
Yeah, I mean, it's so typical of the Empire. The Empire is very just cold and unfeeling about everything, right? If it doesn't further their goal in some way, they don't care about it. It's just an obstacle to be removed, right? So the only reason why they haven't just wiped these people out at this point is probably because it's too expensive. So it is very just cold. They're like, let's just go with it for as long as we can. It was kind of that mindset of the officer. It's like, I hate this, but let's just do it and get it over with because it's in the way of furthering our conquest of the galaxy, right? So it fits, and I do like how it shows that darker side.
Yeah, and I mean, it's funny to see how they think that everyone is like them. Everyone is as evil as them. Because when the rebels, Vel and all of them take the main guy hostage, the main bad guy hostage, he's like, well, if we do what you say, you're just going to kill us all anyways. And they're like, no, we're different.
Right.
You do what we say, we'll let you go.
That's an important distinction that plays right into what you're talking about.
Exactly, because the Empire always assumes everyone's evil. But no. The rebels are going to let you go if you do what we say, but we're going to be, and they're so shocked when somebody is cold and cruel to them because they never expect it. It's what Andor says in the trailer.
They didn't want to kill anyone.
No.
Right.
They just did what they had to.
Well, when the action starts, it never really stops as our terrorists fight their way out of the compound. But during the battle, it's kind of cool. Nemec saves Cassian's life with a well-placed blaster bolt.
That was good.
But then as the rebels try to fly to their escape, the very credits that they thought were their salvation shift in the craft or the train or whatever is this thing. What is this thing?
I don't know. It's like a
shuttle
space bus.
Yeah,
thing?
anyway,
I don't know.
space bus. Anyway, it shifts mid the flight and it crushes Nemec. And Nemec kind of is able to hold on long enough to help the crew navigate the eye while evading some TIE fighters. And then, we'll talk about this in a little bit, but later Nemec succumbs to his injury. Sam, what do you think Nemec's death is going to do to Cassian? Because it's Cassian's fault.
Well, I think, this is going to be more fuel to the fire of him wanting to join the rebellion, right? Because as we see later in the episode, he gets that manifesto. He's going to start reading it out of curiosity and honor for Nemec, and he's going to see that maybe he's right. Maybe there is more to this than just making a little money. And knowing that Nemec saved his life, and he's going to feel like a debt to him. So it's definitely going to have a major impact on him, I think.
I agree. I think it's going to be huge because Nemec was kind to Cassian and he was the most passionate to the cause out of any of them. And he wanted Cassian to have that manifesto because I believe that Nemec believed that Cassian could be the most important thing for the rebellion out of all of those people. And so, yes, like Sam said, Cassian will start reading that manifesto. I do believe Cassian will be reluctant while reading it. He'll be reading it and be like, this is stupid. And he'll throw it away. And they'll be like, but no, this guy really believed in something. Let me see what he believed in. And so
want to hear, I don't know if you guys, I'm almost certain you guys didn't pick up on this, but there was a tiny Easter egg in this. It's really powerful, though. Did you know what Nemec's last words were? Before he passed out while they were navigating, getting out through the eye. Cassian, climb. He kept saying climb.
Oh my gosh.
That's the last thing that K2SO says in Rogue One.
Why did they do that to me, man?
I didn't need to be reminded of that. No. Oh gosh. No.
He kept saying climb. That's like such an Easter egg on that.
Man,
terrifying to think about that. Somebody's brutal in the writer's room. Ooh, I have a really good idea. Let's just stick a knife in the heart of everyone that loves that movie. Okay. Just before Nemec's death, Skeen Cypher, from The Matrix, reveals his true character by offering to split the credits 50-50 with Cassian if they just kind of take off and leave Vel and Nemec behind. In the end, Cassian just
does the right thing.
He just takes out Skeen. Yeah. He just takes him out. Nate, did Cassian kill Skeen out of anger or self-preservation?
I 100% anger, because I feel like he felt like everybody on this team sacrificed so much, and you're just willing to leave these people behind because you lied to them. You weren't in it for the cause or anything. You were just here for the money. And I honestly feel like Cassian saw some of himself in Skeen.
I do too.
Because of that same situation. He was like, wait.
Because of all those people that died on his planet to help him get free when what he was trying to do was get some credits and leave.
Yes. And so he was angry and he was scared because he's like, am I turning into this guy right here? And so that'll also help with Nemec's manifest and all that stuff. I think that it was just 100% anger.
Yeah. I agree. I do think it's just furious that he would even consider something like that. It definitely caught me off guard because it was lightning fast. It kind of harkens back to the beginning of Rogue One, but it's the other side of the same coin. In that case, it was not anger; it was self-preservation. He just had to do what he had to do. But in this case, that he was just so appalled that he would even consider doing something like that. And I'm certain what happened to Nemec was weighing on him at that point, just because Nemec got crushed for you, and now you're just willing to, it's no big deal to me,
right?
And I really like the point you made, Nate, about like how he sees himself in there in Skeen a bit in that interaction. I didn't make that connection, and it's pretty powerful.
It is, absolutely. The episode ends with the impact of this event being felt on Coruscant as Deidre and the ISB are charged with coming up with a response to the event. And then the Galactic Senate loses all focus on Mon Mothma as she's making one of her passionate speeches seeking aid for the Gormans. And then also a rich couple seeking trinkets ask Luthen if he has anything from Dahani where the skirmish just took place as they read it in the
crap out of him.
It does scare it. Sam, lots of terrorist events have taken place before this. You get that from what's the conversations with the ISB in the previous couple episodes, but does this feel like something more significant to you?
I don't know. The only reason why I think it feels more significant is we're seeing the media coverage, I guess, the Star Wars media coverage. We haven't really gotten that in anything else. We haven't really seen the public interaction to some of the things that the Rebellion does. Maybe a little bit in Rebels here and there, but not to a scale like this where it's getting all the way to Coruscant and everybody's like, whoa, this is huge. So I do think so. Maybe it's because there's more of a death toll, I guess, because there were a good number of of Imperials who were killed. I mean, it's shocking. Think about this, to connect it to our world. Imagine if some terrorists walked into
Fort
Knox and killed a bunch of American soldiers and ran off with a ton of money.
It would be very. It would get on the radar.
Yes, for sure. So I think that's why it happened like that.
I think why it was so big is the Empire controls everything in Coruscant, especially in Coruscant, and so the Empire was scared because not only did this hurt them because a bunch of the Imperial soldiers died and they were vulnerable,
and they lost
money, and they lost something kind of just greed because they are greedy.
They lost their valuable resources.
They lost a valuable resource.
They can conscript more people.
Exactly. And so they lost something that was more important to them than the soldiers. And so they're making everybody know about it because this is a rebel attack. This was huge. This was a big problem. We all need to know about it and be sad for the officers, but especially for the money that we lost because that was terrible. And so I really believe that was why it was so big. And I think that's why the Empire is reacting to it so massively because they understood, wait, we're vulnerable and these people exploited us very easily.
Yeah. I mean, they pretty much just walked in and stole the money.
Yeah. But it was the arrogance. It is exactly what Cassian says to Luthen in the third episode when he's like, you just walk in and take it.
Right.
So that's exactly what he needed Cassian to do. Walk in and take it. And so that's what they did. So that was interesting. I think it's time for a dad moment.
I am your father.
Well, I kind of teased this earlier, but episode 6 ended very differently than I expected. All the way up to kind of the very last moments of this, I was convinced that Cassian was going to see the death of Nemec as his reason to move beyond being a mercenary and to become a true believer. But instead, Cassian just goes in, he takes his share, he returns the Kyber crystal to Vel, and he makes a getaway. We know that before long, Cassian is going to go all in on the rebellion. But for now, he's got some growing to do. And there's the great lesson to learn from this. We want people to come to our position on things very quickly, but we also have to be patient with them and let them come to those conclusions on their own timing. Patience is important, even when trying to recruit someone to join a rebellion. So
good segment.
Good segment. Thanks. Appreciate it, guys. And since you already spoiled it, I'll mention it again. Tony Gilroy has said that the 3-episode arc structure will change in episode 7. So I'm curious. We'll see. We'll have to wait and see. But are we getting a one-off episode or is something even more extensive?
A movie
in store.
No.
We'll have to see. All right. Anything else you guys want to talk about?
Anything else?
Yeah. Harrison Ford is going to be joining Captain America 4.
Wow.
He'll be taking on the role of General Ross, previously played by the late William Hurt. He's going to do well because he's grumpy and old, and it's going to fit the role perfectly.
He is grumpy and old.
So that's cool, though. We're getting Han Solo in MCU.
I think he'll do the CGI work for Red Hulk, though.
Probably not.
That would be cool. Harrison Ford as Red Hulk would make me very
Well, he's going to be. They're the same guy.
Same character.
But I don't think he can be in the CGI suit like Mark Ruffalo is. I don't think that can happen. But after Henry Cavill, Ben Affleck reportedly signed a new Batman contract to appear in multiple DCEU projects. We already know of The Flash and Aquaman, so
maybe more.
Maybe Shazam.
Interesting.
Give us the Trinity in Shazam, please. I beg of you.
The Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit?
No.
Wonder Woman, Superman, and Batman.
Oh, that Trinity. Okay.
That would be
the Holy Trinity of DC.
There we go. Mark Hamill applauds Cincinnati's Fluke Skywalker.
Aw, that's awesome.
Nice.
On his Blink Parade appearance, talking about how much good Fluke does.
That's awesome. I love that.
I also want to give a shout out to Fluke because Fluke, when news articles wanted to start sharing information about that, he specifically asked that his own real name not be shared because he doesn't want to get
want the credit
for it.
That's so cool.
Awesome, dude.
It's pretty cool.
Cool, dude.
Absolutely amazing guy. All right. That's going to do it for this week. Thank you guys so much for listening to Tatooine Sons, a pop culture podcast.
Yeah, and if you had a good time listening, please share this with your friends.
Awkwardly long pause.
Yeah, it was an awkwardly long pause because his dad didn't inform me that there was supposed to be an awkwardly long pause. But no, if you did have a good time listening, please share this with your friends and everybody and family.
Yeah, and of course, if you only this show's only a small part of the Tatooine Sons world, so be sure to like us on Facebook, join the Facebook discussion group, and follow us on Twitter to get in on all of the action. You can also keep up to date with everything we've got going on on at TatooineSons.com.
That's right. And don't forget to follow the show on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss our next episode, or your iPod app.
iPod.
With that.
I miss iPods. iPods were cool.
I want an iPod Nano.
I know, like the little square
Did you
ones.
hear that the first iPhone like sold for like
$40,000?
Yeah, today.
What?
It was just in an auction, a sealed version, an 8 gig.
Wow.
Yeah. Anyway, give us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or whatever podcast app you prefer.
Join our Patreon so we can buy that phone.
Okay. We don't even have our Patreon turned on. So, all right. Anything else you guys would like to say?
May the force be with you.
May the force be with you.
May the force be with you always.
This party's over.
I like that Wookiee.
Don't get technical with me.
Joy, please.